Before we get started again, the ushers there at the back, the greeters, they've got these sheets of paper that have some verses from John chapter 4 on them. If you don't have one of these, just give them a wave. They're ready for you to bring you one. We have a ton of extras as well. So if you were told to have one as a couple, but you'd actually rather have one each, you can certainly do that as well. So just give them a quick wave and they'll make sure. We got a couple more up here. We'll make sure we get those to you. We're starting a new series here for Christmas, and this series is called Manger Throne. When we were sitting around, if you believe it, in September, talking about what Christmas would look like, and we were starting to bounce some ideas around, Catherine and Dave and I were sitting, and this was a song that was clearly going to feature for this time of year, and we liked the idea, the concept of what it brought. And so this morning's going to be a little bit different, because normally when I speak from here, I do a lot of the observational work. But today, we're actually going to do it together. And here's why. Because I think one of the big things about this series is this idea of identity. Jesus comes, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Prince of Peace, the one who's created the heavens and the earth, comes down to the world in the form of a baby, born in a small town that's meaningless, in a barn, could, of course, come in a way that's much different, but didn't. And the question is why, and I think Christians have asked and answered that question 100 times, but I think this folds in for us to this concept of identity, because I don't know about you, but I've spent a lot of my life trying to figure out what my identity is, or how it's formed, or what it looks like. Maybe you knew what your identity was, but now you're going through an identity crisis. Maybe you went through an identity crisis, but then you got yourself out of it, and now you know who you are again. But it seems like, and I don't know, maybe it's just my experience or talking to people, when people are looking to try to figure out what their identity is, they're always trying to drill in on one thing. And I think I've said this before. My parents got divorced when I was young, when I was 4. And one of the things that happens when you're a child of divorce is you end up in two places a lot. And if your parents are different, they believe in different things, they look at the world differently, they have different worldviews, it almost teaches you from the very beginning to be different people in different situations. And some of you are probably like that, whether it's work or school or whatever that looks like. But growing up, I was continually told by my dad to just be one person. And it's some of the best advice I ever got as a kid. You know, just be consistent, just be one person. The tough part is when you're a kid, it's really hard to identify like how to build an identity at all. And so be one person, it kind of becomes a lot more about how you act than it is who you are. I don't know if that resonates, but for me, especially growing up, it was like I have to act one way in every situation. I have to be super consistent. Being one person meant picking a side on every issue and sticking to it. It meant making sure that I never diverted because I didn't want to be two people. But then you grow up and you figure out sometimes that just doesn't work, and sometimes you're forced into something else, or then you maybe need to change and you need to shift. And so then, well, like, what does this be one person mean? And I think this is a really beautiful example. This series, this concept of Manger Throne, is a really interesting way to look at this, especially if you're maybe trying to figure out how to form that identity. Because a manger throne, in the context that we're going to talk about it, is completely and totally a dichotomy. And if you don't know what that is, or you're just really tired and it's early, which is totally fine, a dichotomy is it's a division or a contrast between two things that are or are represented as being opposed. They're entirely different, okay? A dichotomy is comparing these two things that aren't the same. There's a big difference between, a feeding trough for an animal and the throne of a king. And so as we go through this series for the next few weeks, we're going to look at some of these dichotomies. We're going to look at the ways that Jesus was maybe expected to be, and then what he was, what people thought he should do versus what he actually did, and then also moments where Jesus held what it seemed to be was two different things together. And so this morning, we're going to experiment. We're going to try to do this together. So I'm going to read through this scripture, and then we're going to go through it slowly, and we're going to see how many different things we can compare just within this small piece of scripture. I love this story. It's one of my favorites, the one of the woman at the well when Jesus meets her. So here's the story. We'll read it through once, and then we'll start looking around. It says this, "Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact that it was not Jesus who baptized, but his disciples. So he left Judah and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Shinar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, 'Will you give me a drink?' His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, 'You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans.' Jesus answered her, 'If you knew the gift of God and who it was that asked for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water.' 'Sir,' the woman said, 'you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us this well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?' Jesus answered, 'Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life.' The woman said to him, 'Give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming to draw water.' He told her, 'Go call your husband back.' 'I have no husband,' she responded. Jesus said to her, 'You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you are now with is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true.' 'Sir,' the woman said, 'I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place we must worship is in Jerusalem.' Woman said, 'Jesus, believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father, neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. Yet a time is coming, and a time has come now, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers that the Father seeks. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth.' The woman said, 'I know that Messiah, called Christ, is coming. And when he comes, he will explain everything to us.' Then Jesus declared, 'I, the one speaking to you, am he.'" So this morning is a little bit less about me discovering things for you, and it's about us discovering things together. So whether you've been in a Bible study once or 100 times, or maybe you've never done this before, maybe this is your first time at church for a while, you could just take it as a literary exercise if that helps you. You look at it and you go, okay, what are the things that are different? And so first of all, we're all going to practice speaking out loud, because for some reason, the older we get, the less we like to do that in large groups, unless you like to do it in large groups. It's this weird thing. I don't know how it goes. So everybody just say, "Hi, Mike." Okay, that was 3/4 of the room. That was good. Let's try it again. Just say, "Hi, Mike." Okay, so your voices all work, so we know this now. So, okay, we're going to go through this. Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized, but the disciples. Are there any dichotomies here? Are Are there any things that were expected, were not expected? Are there things that maybe you assume from the Bible that are different here? Feel free to actually just yell out to me. This is not going to translate well online. It's just going to be one of those mornings. Sorry? Yeah, go ahead, Paul. Right. How many people assume, you don't have to raise your hand, how many people assume that Jesus did all the baptizing? I don't know if you would have assumed that or not, but that's an interesting thing when you slow down and you look. You go, oh, that's different. I like that, right? It's not Jesus who did the baptizing, it's the disciples. A lot of times in church, people go, oh, it's the pastor that does all the spiritual work, and we just get to come and listen. Right here, we say, hey, that's actually not true. You have a role to play. You have some stuff to do. You have work to do here. I think it's cool that just right at the beginning of the story, we see the contrast of maybe what we expect growing in faith or what this looks like to what it really actually is. Is there anything else? Does anybody else see anything on this one? That was the big one for me, but if you see something else. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's so interesting, right? We know about John the Baptist, and then all of a sudden we see this thing that Jesus, now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John. That's a cool thing to consider, right? This idea that clearly the Pharisees knew who John was, but now that Jesus is almost doing it more, like, are they paying more attention? Are they worried about both? John keeps saying, hey, the Messiah is coming. Does this key into them to go, oh, maybe this is actually the person, or is this somebody who's just following along? That's a great observation. I love that one. So he left Judah and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria. Anything here? Didn't have to go through Samaria. Yes, I think I said that last week. That's the one it's one of the reasons that this one kind of stuck in my head this week. They didn't have to go. That's right. Jews don't go through Samaria. Jews go around Samaria, right? Just like Christians, we don't go through the places where the tough people are. We go around them. Right. Yeah, that's right. So this is good. It's nice to be affirmed. Yeah. I love how Galilee always comes up too, just this like small little town in the middle of nowhere. Hey, we're going from Judah, Galilee. It's nice. Didn't have to go through, but Jesus went actually, we do have to go through. We don't know a lot about this otherwise, but it's just so interesting. It's a great part of the story. So he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well. It was about noon. Anything here that's interesting? Anything that sticks out? Nobody goes to the well at noon. Why don't you go to the well at noon? Because it's hot. Okay, so now what you've got is you've got the creator of the universe going through somewhere that he shouldn't be going through, and going to a place that doesn't make any sense to be going to at a time that it doesn't make any sense to be going there. I love that. Who said that? Andy. And he's tired. That's the one that jumped off for me. How does God get tired? Yeah. I think that this is just, again, one of those little pieces where if God is going to come down to earth and go, I need to send my son because the people of earth need to see that God can live in and amongst and succeed in this human experience, that God needs to experience all the things that we did. There's just no world in which Jesus needed to be tired. I think that's really cool. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? His disciples had gone into the town to buy food. Well, first of all, that sounds right, because when I'm hungry, I send the staff out and they bring me food. So again, I love being affirmed through Scripture. I don't do that. But otherwise, anything here for you? Yeah, why didn't anybody stay with Jesus? Yeah, that's a good question. Like as a bodyguard or something, right? I know you're God, but you're kind of human too. Yeah, okay, yeah. It's wrong in culture. Yeah, yeah. And who initiates the conversation? Jesus. This just doesn't make, like, I love this story for how much sense it doesn't make. Like, it's so, like, it makes perfect sense, but it's so counter-cultural, this whole story, right? Samaritan woman comes to draw water, again, at noon, which is weird. Jesus said to her, will you give me a drink? And he happened to make sure he was by himself. Samaritan woman came and said, you are a Jew and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? Don't read the last part. Do you see any dichotomies here? They don't associate. It's a great observation. That's right. No, they don't associate. Yeah. I like how she points them both out, as if he doesn't know. Like as if, like regardless of who he is in this moment, he's in Samaria and there's a woman. But she makes sure she declares herself as a Samaritan woman. It's almost like her going, are you okay? You're really from somewhere far away, which I guess was true. How can you ask me for a drink? Anything in that for you? I think it's interesting that Jesus asks her for something first. I think there's something in that. This idea that like we are just continually called to be and to do something, that our actions matter. They don't form our identity, but that Jesus comes and says, hey, will you do this?
It's almost like she was saying, don't you understand that I have to touch the water in order to keep moving?
Yeah, don't you understand that I actually have to touch this? Like you're going to touch something that I'm touching. Yeah, it's really good. Jesus answered to her, if you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water. So what does Jesus flip here? Don't be shy. Other people have spoken. Anything here? Doesn't need to be.
He's saying that he can offer the woman something. He just asked the woman for something, and now he's saying, I can offer you something.
Right. I think we forget that sometimes. I think we forget that just about every street in life is a two-way street. It's back and forth. Yeah. I have these conversations a lot with people, especially people that are critical of church or Christians, who, like, it's so interesting to me all the time when people are like, hey, like, shouldn't church people be great? And I'm like, no, we're just all broken together in the same place at the same time. Like, so we're just as broken as you are. We're just like in a club saying, yeah, we're busted. Woohoo. Yeah, the context, the concept of living water and what that would be, for sure. Sir, the woman said, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where can you get this living water? So he presents her with this thing that he has, but then she looks at him and goes, you can't get it. Yeah, right? This idea that the only way for us to acquire anything is for it to be right in front of us and for us to be able to see it 100% of the time. Like how many situations in your life have been in where you're like, I have no idea how this is going to happen, and then your second thought or your second sentence is, so it clearly can't. And I just love how Jesus contrasts that time and time again and goes, you just have no idea what God is capable of. Are you, this is the woman, are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us the well and drank from it himself, as did his sons and his livestock? What's the dichotomy here?
Conflict between two cultures here. There is the Samaritan who had historic
That's right, yeah. So we've got a culture contrast, this historic claim to the well versus somebody from outside asking for some. Yeah? What else? Father Jacob. Yeah, that's the one that jumped for me too, right? The Samaritans they've come out of the Jewish culture. Like they're going to believe a lot of the same things. There's going to be a lot of similarities. There are things that they adapted and added in. But a lot of the core pieces are there. But it's interesting to me where she goes, our father, and then stops at a certain level of lineage. Whereas Christ, God, being the father of all, is sitting right in front of her. I think that's cool. Jesus answered, everyone who drinks from this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I will give them will never thirst. We're going to skip by that one. I think that one's fairly self-explanatory. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life. The woman said to him, Sir, give me this water so that I won't get thirsty and have to keep coming here to draw water. Now what are we looking at? Think about it in the context of the arc of the whole story.
Change of mindset.
Yeah, totally a change of mindset, right? She's first of all, she's abrasive and standoffish, and all of a sudden this thing has been presented to her that she doesn't even believe she can get at, and all of a sudden she's asking for it. Like it's like this progression, right? It's almost like the more we get to know Jesus, the more we understand. It's this idea that the deeper we go and the more we're in conversation, the more clear even the simple things become. Yeah, it's a great observation. He told her, go call your husband and come back. I have no husband. So the observation here is obvious, but what's kind of, again, a larger arch, what's happening now in this conversation? She's testing him? Oh, she's... So she's starting to open up a bit. Yeah, that's a good one. I didn't catch that. That's great. I don't know where that's coming from, but yes. Oh, yeah. That's right. They're kind of going, it's kind of going back and forth. Yep. I like how this part of the story, and then the next part, Jesus said to her, you're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is, you've had 5 husbands, and the man you have is now not your husband. What you have said is just quite true. This idea that he came to her humbly and open-handed, and he hasn't actually really been that corrective yet, until now. So he's been kind, and he's been giving, and he's given wisdom, and he's broken down the cultural barrier, yet he's also not afraid to be firm in the things that are right and wrong. And the transition, the way that happens, like it's a little snarky, but probably more from her, like he's pointing something out, and obviously you're going to be defensive. Sir, a woman said, I can see that you're a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem. What do you see here? Sorry? Right, redirection from her. Oh, yeah. Can we talk about something else? Yeah, can we get back to the land for a minute? That's funny. I never saw that before. I like that. That's good. What else? Oh, I love that. It's almost like the more we talk to Jesus, the more comfortable we get to go, hey, what's going on here? Right? Again, people try to understand Jesus so often just by, watching a reel or checking out their Bible really quick. But it's this conversation where she all of a sudden learns, hey, I can challenge you. What about this? What about the fact that you say that we have to worship in this one place and that we're doing it all wrong? And then Jesus says what? Believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. Anything here for you? Yeah, he goes in steps. He reveals himself a piece at a time. Yeah. There's no right or wrong place to worship God. This is what Jesus is saying. This is what Jesus, a Jew. Okay, so we're going through this giant series right now for the whole year, right? So when they talk about the temple in Jerusalem, this is the temple we're talking about, the one that just got rebuilt. This is the second temple. So we're spending our whole series going through this year going through this rebuild series to rebuild this temple, to reestablish worship, to reestablish this culture stuff. And now we've got Jesus going, you're going to be able to worship everywhere. This wild concept to both groups, to the Jews and the Samaritans. It's probably a good thing the disciples weren't there. Yeah, Paul. Sure, he's being prophetic about his own death, yeah. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. So obviously, you worship one thing that you think it is, but we know what it is. We know what it is because we know who the Messiah is coming through. Yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. What's the contrast here? Think bigger. Think about the last 3 months if you've been here. Already and not yet. Yeah. Boy, does life feel like that a lot. What else? Yeah. Yeah. The true worshipers. It's interesting to conceptualize the concept that not everybody who worships is a true worshiper. That seems like a scary sentence to say, right? It's the other people, it's not us. So that's good. But, yeah. The worshiper the Father seeks. Yeah. Location plays into this as well, which is interesting. The Jews would have understood worship as a geographical experience, as you guys have already talked about. God is spirit, and his worshipers must worship in spirit and in truth. The woman said, I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us. And Jesus declared, I, the one you are speaking to, am he. It's this interesting story. Like we've read this story a lot. I'm sure you've been through it a bunch of times. Some of you with the quickness that you come back, you can tell like, hey, we've read this before. But I think it's so cool that this idea of Jesus being not two people, but being able to do different things, to be able to work in different scenarios, to be able to meet somebody where they're at in the place that's unexpected is completely different from what everybody thought Jesus was supposed to be. We still and continue to and will always in our human nature put God in a box. Some of your boxes are bigger than other people's, but it's really hard because it's impossibly difficult for us to just understand an infinite God. And so there's just a limitation to our understanding. And so it's inevitably going to happen. But we've got Jesus time and time and time again, just through one simple conversation, being both the humble baby in the manger and the king on the throne. The one who comes humbly through somebody else's area and sits and is respectful and asks for something and reaches out to somebody and is in a place that they're not supposed to be. But then at the same time, somebody who clearly has the knowledge and the authority and uses that in a way that actually leads people towards God in a way that's helpful and healthy even for those that don't know him yet. It's this whole manger throne concept. I don't know about you, so much for me, dichotomy, do I do this or do I do that? Do I function this way or do I function that way? For me, for a lot of my life, caused identity crisis. The interesting thing about a story like this is that dichotomy doesn't create identity crisis, it actually resolves it. Okay? It sits here and goes, like, you can act like Jesus here in this totally expected scenario, and you can act like Jesus in this unexpected scenario. And the way that you act in those two scenarios, it's actually okay to be different. Right? Jesus brings the truth. He just doesn't lead with it. Sometimes you lead with it. You're going to come to church. A lot of you have been Christians. Sometimes you're going to sit down and I'm just going to, boom, hammer you with something, and you're going to go home going, oh. Okay? But there's going to be a lot of scenarios where somebody is going to have to discover who Jesus is through the course of your conversation, and you can still bring the truth about Jesus, but you might need to show them a little bit of who he is on the way. It's okay to do both. I think so many of us get caught and we have to be one or the other. Our whole lives are being pulled. You have to do this or you have to do that. If you're not on this side, you're on that side. And if you're not with me, you're against me. And Christ, knowing that the only way to actually be on everybody's side was to just do it, shows us in this situation how it's done, which I think is really cool.